pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming in. We're going to start right out with a review of the employee personnel policies. If I could please just state that right up front that this shouldn't be adversarial. We want to work with everybody, and we're going to take your comments and questions in and make adjustments accordingly. All right. Would one of the department heads like to speak on behalf of the concerns that you have, like with the personnel policy, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Mike Gable, Chief Police Auschwitz. For anybody that might be on the WebEx or yeah. So I kind of heard about the proposed changes to the employee handbook, more specifically to the current time off benefits, and I kind of heard about them by rumor versus being officially told.
Mike, if I could interject.
Sure.
I apologize for that.
Yeah.
I think I said that at the meeting. It didn't dawn on me that I should come to you and we should go over this. I just thought things just happened this way, so I do apologize for dropping the ball.
Yeah, and I'm not here to, point fingers or take it personally. I'm just stating some obvious things.
Yeah, so I just want to have that right up front.
Right, I appreciate that, and your acknowledgement is definitely worth hearing for sure. I appreciate it. So with that, obviously I became concerned because I'm concerned about my employees. I'm also concerned about the rest of the employees in the town. We all rely on knowledge and information, and part of that is knowing what our benefits are and if there's going to be changes. Under the current employee handbook that we have today, it's my opinion, and talking with my employees and some of the town employees, that we feel that it is competitive to municipalities that are around us. And I did some of my own research over the last few weeks, or at least 2 weeks I should say, after hearing about some of the proposed changes, and then also getting to officially look at the draft, if you will, of the proposed changes to the handbook that I'm guessing would possibly take effect January 1, 2022. When I looked at the proposed changes, I thought it was a step in the wrong direction for my agency, and I'm not going to speak for every town employee, but the general census was that most people thought it was not the right thing to do. I did some research. I'll pass off. I have one copy of research that I do by contacting municipalities inside our jurisdiction or close to our jurisdiction, and I don't have every single number, but the numbers that are here are actually factual and real, and these are the numbers that I got from people that work in these jurisdictions or these towns. And so I present this to the board to show that in order to stay competitive in today's market and with the municipalities around us, that we should take a look at this and make sure that we are staying competitive. And I think the proposed changes to the handbook that I saw are not competitive. If we look at Wilton, 10 paid holidays. You guys propose we go down to 8. Ringe, 12 paid holidays. You propose we go down to 8. If we go on to Peterborough, 11 paid holidays. Jaffrey, 11. Milford, 10. Go to the next page, Dublin, 10. Amherst, 11. So these are all municipalities that are very close to us, and some of them close to size of population. I know that you talked about reducing vacation to the max out at a maximum of 3 weeks of vacation period. So after the end of a certain amount of time, an employee of New Ipswich would get 3 weeks of paid vacation, and that would be the end of it. I don't think that's good for us. I don't think it's good for longevity, and I don't think it's a good reward for employees that stay here 10, 15, 20 years. We talk about trying to make or produce incentives to keep employees, and then but minimizing their vacation time or possible accrued vacation time to 3 weeks period, in my opinion, is not competitive. And if we wanna go through this list, Wilton, 4 weeks after 10 years, Ringe, 4 weeks after 10 years, Peterborough, I didn't get their vacation time, Jaffrey, 5 weeks after 15, Milford, 5 weeks after 25 years, 4 weeks after 10, Dublin, they break it down 2.4 weeks, all the way up to 4.4 weeks after 12 years, that's 176 hours, and they can also bank up to 300 hours. Amherst, 5 weeks after 15 years, it goes on from there. Our current employee handbook and the way it's set up today, I think is competitive with what's going on in the areas around us, the municipalities around us. And again, limiting it to 3 weeks, I don't think is competitive. I hope you take some time to review this document. I know that when I hired my employees, they had a great explanation from me on the current benefits and some of the decisions to come on board here, even to leave other places, were based upon our benefit package, and that's important. I've recently interviewed some new or potential hires. Those interviews always include benefits. Those benefits go off our current benefit package, and when I try to hire somebody in January and tell them they've changed and now it's different, I feel that that's not a positive thing to give to them, and that they might think that I'm trying to do something funny or pull something over their eyes. Again, as I stand here, I think that the current package we have is competitive. And if you were to look at some of the other agencies, or I should say towns, to be more specific, they have the ability to bank more sick time than us. I know that currently we can bank up to 120 hours, so potentially we give an employee 3 weeks of income protection, right? We don't have short-term disability here in Northswich. It's not offered by the town. When I left Wilton, for example, they offer a short-term and long-term disability. It's 100% paid by the employer. Nothing out of pocket for the employee. They also offer a very competitive sick time package that we have already. If we go into Ringe, 48 hours per year, that's six days. They can bank up to a max of 30 days, 240 hours. We can bank 120 under the current policy. The policy that you propose takes away all sick time, which means we don't bank any sick time. We don't have an income protection. Some of the other ones that I was able to get the numbers from, Peterborough can bank up to 90 days of sick time, 720 hours. They get paid at 1.5 weeks annually, so a week and a half of 60 hours a year of sick time. Bank up to 720. If you don't use a sick day, every 4 months they give you another vacation day. Jaffrey, 12 sick days annually. Bank 720 hours. Milford, 96 hours annually, bank 720 hours. Amherst, 58 hours per year, so 7.2 days. Bank 240 hours. And that's, again, some of the ones I've contacted. Our 120 hours now that we can bank, is it the best? No. Is it competitive? I think it is. Could it be improved upon? I also think it can be. We don't have any other way as employees here to, unless we go out completely on our own, to secure some income protection. And I'm not saying the town owes us all a bunch, but we all feel valued, and we want to feel that we're valued by the town as well.
I have a question on that sick time, because the way the current employee handbook has it written, it's done on some sort of a formula, right? At first read of it is complicated.
Okay.
You have to really think about how this thing's working for the sick, unused sick time. And I wonder about these other towns. Did you see what kind of formula that they're using.
No, I didn't read the paragraphs within their sick time policy. I just called them and spoke to either somebody in their agency or somebody from Human Resources and said, hey, essentially, can you guys get sick time? Yes. How much sick time? They told me. I said, do they have a carryover or a bank? Yes, we do. If you don't use your sick time, you get to bank up to this many hours. Most of them have like I would assume, this is an assumption, that they would have a minimum amount of sick time you can use at once. So it's like, I'm not gonna call in for a half hour, use a half hour sick time. It's like a 2 hour minimum, or some may have a 4 or half day minimum, or a full day. You can't just go take it, but I don't really know specifically.
Okay.
Right. These are the numbers they use.
The question is, what happens if after that 720 hours, how does that time go away, the extra time? That's, I think, one of the things Jason was thinking about, right?
Yeah. Like I said, it is a bit complicated.
Yeah, so under our current policy of 120 hours, that's the most we can bank. So a scenario would be, and I'll give a scenario, this is not 100% factual based upon, but let's say me. My anniversary is December 27th. Let's say I'm maxed out at 120 hours. Now, our policy says we can't go beyond 120 hours of sick time. So on the 27th, I'm really eligible for 40 hours of sick time, but now I can't take any more because I'm maxed, right? So I don't get any more. The policy also says, what? That if I don't take any more, I get 2 hours for every day I can't use anymore. I think that's what the policy says.
Yeah, and that's the formula that I was referring to.
Yeah, so that's the current formula. So myself, just so everybody knows, I don't care if it's public, I have 112 hours saved up. What does that equate? It means I've taken 8 hours of sick time in 3 years. Alright, so somebody in here may have 120 hours already banked, which means in the last 3 years, they haven't taken a sick time. They haven't taken a sick day. That's pretty impressive, right? And considering, you know, it's an incentive, that 120 hours in my back pocket, saying, you know what, if I get COVID right now, which is very real, and I'm out of work for 2 or 3 weeks, at least I have some income protection. If, you know, sprained ankle, twisted knee. Now, we all know if you have something major, you know, 3 weeks is probably just the tip of the iceberg. But it's something, right? We don't have short-term disability. And I know it's easy to say, hey, we'll get some. And some people like myself do have some. But maybe not everybody's in the financial position to do that. So I just, you know, if you have more questions, I can go on.
Well,
Yeah.
if I could just speak to the point of eliminating the sick leave part we did that for flexibility for you guys. Like, it wasn't, because it seemed cumbersome, the whole thing. So we were looking to try to make it easier. No doctor's notes, no excuses. You're all adults. You know, we're not looking to like make sure, you know, like go check your house and make sure you're really home, like whatever. Like if you want to use it. So we decided to put it all under the paid time off.
Sure.
I think the banking aspect, we overlooked the importance of that. And this can all be reviewed again, and I appreciate that you're coming in and letting us know where, you know, where the deficiencies are in it. But really the review of the policy was to find a good balance between liability, like to the town, so some of that, like the vacation cap, it seemed excessive to us, like to have, like where it's at. And then especially this year having to pay out a large sum, like unexpectedly, like that comes out of a budget that you don't necessarily budget for, because then you need people in those other roles as well.
Sure.
So that's where some of that consideration came from.
Yeah.
You know, like I said though, it wasn't done to stir everybody up or, you know, and I apologize as well for not communicating. There should have been a memo that went out, like letting everybody know that we were reviewing it and looking for input, and we didn't go that route. Yes,
How
ma'am.
many people do you have in that high, like long-term employment, like over 10 years, or how many?
I don't know the specific
Yeah,
number.
that's
I
it.
think there was only one person
Not
that
many.
So it's
was,
not like, you know, most
What?
of it, because
There was gonna be another one next year if we had the policy the same.
That would be Roger, by the way. He's one of those people that doesn't change jobs very, well, I might as well say.
Yeah, okay.
It's just that, you know how, like, some establishments, you know, they, you know, people, if they have like a whole huge number of people that are in the 30-year range, you know, 40-year, you know, they start offering, you know, early retirement because they have so many in that high bracket, but I don't see that right, we don't have that right now.
No, so even to
But
that
it's-
point,
it's
it
nice
didn't,
to have
it didn't
people
seem
that
like
are
it would affect
compatible.
many people, you're like, cause there's not that many people at that tier.
But
Like
that's,
it seemed like,
but that's an
so
incentive,
that's why we
though.
capped it, I
But that's an
understand that,
incentive, you
yeah.
know, to say, hey, you know, I've worked here that long.
Yeah, if it's not a big deal, why touch it?
What's that, Stacy?
Well-
If it's not a big deal, then why touch it? I mean, just leave it.
The whole-
It's an incentive for the people that have been there that long.
Hmm.
Were there any analysis done of what the cost savings or additional costs are going to be? Because what you've implemented now is a policy that's a use it or lose it. So people who have been banking and said, look, I want that income protection. I need that income protection because of my age. I can't have competitive short-term or long-term disability policies. So now you're putting in place a policy that's telling me, well, heck, I'm gonna lose 5 days unless I take it. I don't really wanna take 5 days. I really
That-
would prefer to bank it.
I think not only is that the case, I think we have in the 702 that there would be up to 1 week of compensated unused vacation time, which was new, and it was so that because sometimes life doesn't allow us to take a vacation, or sometimes somebody's so strapped they can't. It'd be really nice if they could come to work and collect their vacation. So
And I think that's.
again, our tone was not to come and hammer the employees, but as selectmen, we are asked to make this balance with the taxpayers and the employees, and trying to find that balance, it's not easy.
But there are other things that should be taken into consideration, recruitment costs. I'm sure the police department has extremely high recruitment costs. It should be added into that calculation. I don't know what turnover is in the police department, but I would think that there is a learning to get people up to speed cost, the training cost, within the highway department as well as the police department. So I don't think it's as black as white as looking at saying, oh, well, we're going to take away 2 floater days. We're going to now put bucket days of sick in PTO. And I don't think we looked at the surrounding communities to see the additional difficulties we're gonna have being competitive. I can tell you Tom is probably the longest term employee in this town. When he had a heart attack 6 years ago, he almost made it with income protection, with the amount of sick leave that he had banked, and with his vacation. He didn't make it completely, and his teammates and fellow employees came to bat to look to see if they could give up their time to help him make it. That is wonderful, but it should not be something that should be turned to the employees to do.
Yeah, other things that I learned as well is, since speaking with some, in particular Ridge PD, something else they implemented in their sick time policy is they actually implemented the ability for other employees to gift sick time to an employee in need. And so I asked for a copy of that policy in the future to maybe share with the board and saying, hey, maybe, I know we're really small, just by Ridges as well, but they've had people go out with, some serious injuries or illness like cancer, and they say, hey, you know what, I have 120 hours banked, I'm gonna pitch in 20 hours in that time. Please shift that over to employee X and help them out. So that might be something we can look at too as an offset, but when it comes to recruitment, it's spot on. We need to be competitive with what's around us. This isn't towns from DC or big cities like Philly or New York. This is right around our community. I don't want to keep hitting on that, but you can see where I stand.
I think one of the things too is people forget is there is a cost of doing business. You know, I have employees, you have employees, we all know there's certain standards you have to keep in order to keep your employees. You know, you wanna keep them happy, but you also wanna keep them from going somewhere else, and
Especially in these times.
well, and that's just it. I can't imagine being in Mike's, or Chief Abel's spot right now, because I can't find people to work for me, and I'm in construction and farming. Imagine being in the police world. How do you get people to work for that? And on top of that, how do you get people to work for the highway department? If these guys get upset and leave because of these policies, or changing policies, or you guys aren't keeping up with local areas, it keeps these guys from going to Jaffrey where they're looking for help too. So I think one of the things we need to look at is huge, is pay and benefits and everything else. Is, are we competitive? We don't have to be number one, but I don't want to be last anymore either. You know, that's the other thing.
Yeah, well, you know, when we did our 4-hour workshop, we were taking a lot of things into consideration, and we were also at the same time working on our budget for this coming year, and we've been facing some serious increases in difficulties in hiring, which we're proposing 2.5% to 3% COLA raises this year. And material costs, as you know, have gone skyrocketing through the roof. And there's some supply chain problems. And we were trying to get a more balanced budget so that when we presented the budgets, it would be somewhat acceptable to the residents. As it is right now, and the budget is not finalized, so please don't accept this as final, but we're right now looking at a 5% increase in the budget, in our operating budget. And if the voters vote that down, we're back to the default budget, which means nobody gets a COLA raise, which means that we can't pay for the salt and sand we need for the roads. Thank God it's been a mild winter so far. We're having difficulty procuring equipment for the highway department. The chief here is having difficulty finding officers to try to hire. I know he's been working diligently to interview folks. They're just not available. And there's been a withdrawal of a number of people from the workforce, period. Either they're looking for a better job, or they said, I can get better benefits on welfare. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved here. So we were trying to find a reasonable balance for the long-term future of the town, and even so, we have to go to our deliberative session and then eventually to the ballot box and convince the residents that we're doing the right thing for them.
Well, and I think that's you know, I'm gonna put it back on you guys and be respectful about it, but that's your job to sell that to the town. You have to. This is a cost of living. This is, if you look at what the town has to offer now, we're not that great. We don't have any buildings that are good. We don't have equipment that's great. We don't have all these things, and there's a cost of doing business, and we need this money to do so. And I think there's a way to present it to get the townspeople excited.
I agree with you, Ben, and I think that you've seen a difference with this board from past boards
100%.
where
Yep.
improvements are being made, you know, problems are being addressed, and like I said, we looked at this, the banking part, I didn't understand the value to, I guess, completely, and that's the value of you guys coming in to speak on it, which I appreciate, and I know this board appreciates. And I really appreciate the discussion, you know, and bringing up the issues, you know, because we're not looking to squash our employees, community members, because of supply chain issues or any other of the million excuses of higher costs that we're facing, you know, but we were really looking at making this more dynamic, a little bit easier to use, less cumbersome for our accounting department and like for tracking, and clearly we missed on a couple of points. And we're not above looking at it again, so. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask why the draft that I looked at has an effective date of January 1, 2021? Is it your intent to make it retroactive?
No, it was gonna be January 1, 2022.
Okay.
Yep. This, So over the last 2 years since I've been on the select board, this has been reviewed, this was the third time. And I almost didn't wanna do it, but these two gentlemen next to me were new and wanted to take a look at things. But it's been looked at a lot and not released, so there's been changes over the last 2 years that have been, put into the handbook, that haven't actually made it to print yet, so.
The handbook that's there seems to be a one-sided copy of a two-sided document. It would be nice to receive both sides of the pages, because I'm not sure if what I reviewed has changed.
Okay.
Well, the one that's there, this one here,
When I just
that,
looked at
that
it,
may not be the final copy, because
Well-
we're receiving the input that
I appreciate that, but I'm looking at half the document.
I agree, we
And I agree.
noticed that at the beginning, that
Okay.
whole section.
I'm missing copy, like, pages as well, so,
Yes.
yeah.
I think I have a two-sided copy if somebody wanted me to make them a copy.
I have one that Peter was nice enough to provide to me. I just wasn't sure if there had been changes between what he was able to provide to me and what was here.
I don't believe so, and if we could, like, try not to make too many copies, like I said, there's probably 5 versions of this floating around, and so I'd like to take any other comments, from anybody that is interested in speaking. Jonathan?
Yeah, well, it's a step back for me, for one thing. I've been here over 5 years full-time. I've been here longer than that part-time. So I definitely understand what the chief talking about, income protection, because I use almost no sick time. I try to bank it every year. You know, I won't lose it, but I won't go above 120. I got a large family to support. Something happens to me, I gotta provide them income. If you turn that sick time into personal time, okay? You turn that personal time, I'm gonna make sure I use every 2 weeks. I don't take 2 weeks off every year other than my vacation. If you turn a personal, I'm gonna use both weeks, so you're gonna get 2 less weeks out of me a year. Experienced operator, I run all the equipment here. I have a Class A driver's license. I'm in high demand. So when are you gonna start learning how to retain employees that have become valuable to you? Because if you keep this up, you're not gonna have a revolving door here, you're gonna have a wide open out the door and no one coming in. I'm a little upset. I've given a lot of my life to this town. I've been on call 24/7, summer or winter, whenever someone calls, whenever Pete calls me, I usually answer the phone. 99% of the time, someone, if he can't, it's because I gotta come back because I don't have a good cell service, because the town's awesome for that. That's not your fault.
Well,
But I don't understand this, playing around with this, because we work hard. The roads have improved dramatically over the last 5 to 10 years. We put a lot of work into these roads. I can't control, material costs or anything like that. That's gonna happen on its own. We got equipment that needs replacement. We have one of the lowest tax rates in this area. I don't know exactly, it's like 21, 22 1,000. The municipal rate came down this past year. Tax rate went up. Guess what went up? The schools.
mhm.
Not the town. The town went down. What else do you want from us? You want blood from a rock?
No, and that's not where, like, we were going with this. Yeah, I'm sorry. I understand that you take it so personally. It wasn't a personal attack, like, on you or any of your other fellow employees. Like I said, we're looking to make improvements in it. Clearly, we missed. I've already admitted to missing on it. The banking aspect was a complete, miss on my part. I know that. I didn't understand it fully. And we can make adjustments. I wish that we could have had a conversation instead of a big meeting like this, because I don't think that this was necessary completely.
Absolutely. It
And
would have
that,
been
and
very nice to sit down ahead of time when you were proposing changes, so that we could give you some input. I mean, I'm not gonna waste everyone's time with nitpicking everything, but I have 7 pages of items that change from the version that I looked at to this version, listing comments that are kind of could be concerning, depending on what the intent really was. I don't know if the one I looked at said FMLA and had a little blurb saying that really the town wasn't covered unless you had 50 employees within 75 miles. That's not true for a public agency. So there are things like that that we have not had the opportunity to even talk to you about. That it would be nice before something that is finally issued, that the townspeople that are employees have an opportunity to sit down and try to tell you, this is a concern. There is a new, item about lying to employees. If you're caught lying, I'd really like to understand the intent of that one.
And, you know, we didn't make all of those changes, so, in the handbook. It's been addressed numerous times by numerous boards. So it's, we can answer for what we can answer for, and then,
But if we don't have an answer, it shouldn't be in the book. Shouldn't be part
I
of the
agree.
manual. We took out stuff, we took out stipend employees, or stipend, I don't wanna use the word employees. We took out stipends from the book. Does that mean if I'm stipend, I don't have to follow the rules of conduct because I'm no longer in the manual? I have lots of comments like that, that prior to sitting down and issuing, I really would like to understand the intent.
okay. If you could, you know, please, I guess, forward them to Peter, and then he can get those to us. And, you know,
Yeah, I think like what Peter brought up the other week, if the liaisons can talk to the department heads, it's good to hear the employees, there's no question. And we are not here to hammer and get blood out of a rock, I can assure you that. But for us to talk to the department heads, and the department heads relay what the employees think, I think should have been done to begin with. We're paying for it now. But going forward, you know, I don't know if the chairman wants to vote on anything tonight. Whatever changes are taking place, there will be full communication between the select board and the department heads.
If I may comment again,
Oop.
possible?
Sure, if I could just,
I'm Kelly St. Pierre, I'm the new police administrator for the police department.
hi
I just
Kelly,
want-
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I just thought I could speak to the fact that I came here from Wilton after 16 years, and one of the big draws was your benefit package, especially, you know, the vacation time, the being able to bank sick time, because we didn't have that in Wilton. And I just feel that, as others have said, there needs to be income protection with being able to bank that time. And I also think that if you're gonna attract competent and long-term employees, you have to have a good package, otherwise it will be a revolving door.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, Mark Frederick, I'm new in the department, so if you haven't met me, it's nice to meet you all. As a new employee here, I've been here around 8 or 9 months, and all I've heard is how hard it's been for the police department to retain employees. And if you get rid of these benefit packages, you're gonna get people that are coming in just for the training. They're gonna go to the academy, and then they're gonna leave. And that has been happening. That's all I've heard in my first 8 months here. So it's gonna be a big issue if you guys reduce these benefits.
It happens at police agencies all in this area. Wilton lost a very good young officer to another town. And
We have
basically
heard.
we're his training ground.
It's gonna happen.
We've heard of the difficulty, yeah. So we hope you stay.
I'll just say, I generally don't come to these things. I came when I heard about the benefits going down, and as a general taxpayer, I don't care what you have to spend to make your employees happy, especially the police department. Just keep them happy and make it work. There's no reason to be cutting benefits for people, especially if they've been here for long term. That's just gonna make the town worse, and the services we pay for already have.
Chief, did you have?
Yeah, I just, you know, the people in this room is obviously a mix of people. I think it's, there's some town residents that live here that also work, so they're there for two reasons. They're here to support the town, here to support the current employee handbook. This is a public meeting, right? Was it on the agenda?
Yep.
Yes.
Right, I know this is a rhetorical question, but is there anybody here in opposition of retaining our current benefits? And so the public had a chance to come here tonight and pose their opposition. I don't see any.
Mike, I have one I don't know if you call it consideration or what you call it, but, when we're all done here, I just need to know what to do, to put things on the payroll, which way we're going, so in the end, I just need to know, am I supposed to do this January first, or not do it, or what am I supposed to do?
It was pointed out, that was actually 2021. So, and I don't think legally we're allowed to do retroactive, neither would we ever want to do retroactive.
No, but the thing is, you're saying January 1st, 2022, people are telling me, well, I'm having to find out, what am I supposed to do now? I already have asked about this thing. So come January 1st, 2022, I just need to know what to do.
I think we're gonna hold it in abeyance. We'll hold it in abeyance until we get this straightened out.
Yeah, so, hear a motion to,
I suggest we do not implement it until we rewrite the handbook a little bit more, and do not implement on the 1st of January as proposed.
So question on the handbook, just to clarify, you guys didn't write all this, this is, I mean,
No.
groups and groups
No,
of different
we,
selectmen that you
this
guys.
was
and
previous,
they-
we just changed a couple key
Yes,
paragraphs.
So you guys are taking a lot of this information and just trying to tweak it a little bit to try to get it to where you guys wanted it. So a lot of these changes aren't yours.
well, the major parts with the vacation time and the sick
Sure.
time section are,
Yeah,
ours directly, but, yeah, like most of, like some of the items that, the lady in the back spoke to were,
yeah.
I don't know.
You know what I'd like to suggest is if the department heads could meet with us as we go over the final draft. Would that make sense? That they would be present, and then,
Well, there's no reason to implement it January 1st right now.
I agree,
So,
but at the time that we do,
yeah.
just.
Okay.
Because part of the issue with this is timing anyways. There were some things that happened since we had that meeting, then budgets took off. I got sick for a few weeks and we never actually got to the point with the document that we wanted to, so,
So we have
Yeah,
a motion on the
but-
table to not implement this thing on the 1st of January and go with our current handbook as it's written for the moment.
there's a second,
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So there won't be, and as we go through the review, we'll put it out first, and we won't pick an effective date until we get everybody's input. So we'll just draw the process out, you know, as long as it needs to be to get it right with everybody.
Well, I think where I was going, you know, we got some pretty positive input here tonight. I think we gave an opportunity for the townspeople to come out and show opposition, it didn't happen. Everybody here, how many people here are townspeople, actually live in town? Right? I know you just made a motion, but I was gonna say, what's wrong with a motion to keep the benefits that we have? We're having a meeting today, we can settle this right now. And say, like, these benefits are competitive to a degree. This is our chance to speak, we spoke. I'm just putting it out there.
Well, I still wanna have the chance to make it more flexible. Instead of adding back the sick time section, add banking into the pay time off section, is kinda where I'm thinking. Cause like I said, I wanna make it less cumbersome altogether.
So does that mean you're going to also look at taking away holidays?
Or putting them back, or look at everything that we did.
I think one of the big things that I'd like to see as a taxpayer is these guys be able to share their sick time, you know, especially with
That
COVID.
sounds really,
That's a note that I took to the
that's
gifting.
one in my notebook.
I think that's huge, and I know a lot of other
Never heard
towns
of
in the
it.
area do
Yeah.
that as well, but, I mean, with COVID right now, I mean, you just had it, if you only had 2 weeks of sick time banked, you'd be screwed at the end of the 2, so.
Oh, yeah, I don't get any sick time.
Well, I'm
That's
just saying,
fine.
you were, yeah, but, you know,
Yeah,
yeah. But one of these guys gets sick, you know, I mean, how are you gonna pay your mortgage if you didn't get a check coming in?
But
So-
to that point, it is currently not changed.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's really not a need for a motion, because this is still in a draft form.
I get you. I was just trying to prove a point really, but
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody even taking the chance to listen to us. And,
Yeah.
It's important.
And another part of the benefits packages that we're looking at too is just pay in general and stabilizing that for the employees and making it more predictable for everybody instead of wondering where you're gonna be at. So we've asked, Chief to have a pay scale ready for us. I asked, Mr. Goey, to have one, for the highway department. So that going forward past this board, we're trying to make it a little bit more stable for the employees and the community as a whole.
That
So
brings
that-
up a great point, because Tom was hired, at a time when he didn't have to pay for premiums for his medical coverage. And then a board came on that decided, well, we're gonna grandfather certain employees in. He's the only employee probably still good that was grandfathered in. But then we had a board that came on that had a little man who was extremely jealous of anyone who received any benefit that he didn't receive. And he made sure to take that away from Tom, which I didn't, I understand in the long run, it makes perfect sense. But if we're gonna grandfather anything into a policy to protect the people here and make changes going forward, we need to do something other than putting it in a handbook that says we can change it at any time for any reason. We need to provide the employees with something binding. I'm still keeping that will, and give them something binding saying, yes, you are entitled to 10 holidays, even though new hires are only gonna get 2, or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not sure what that answer would be, cause as the boards change, they can kinda review and look at whatever they want to.
Yes, but we
But-
can put something binding in an employee's personnel file saying, the board has agreed that you are grandfathered and no future board can change this.
Yeah, so I guess language like that, like at those times,
I
yeah.
don't know that you can do that either.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it is.
And with different classes of employees, it is.
No, I don't think you can prevent
You want
future
to?
boards from changing things.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
Well, then,
You
if
can't.
you.
Me and Hazen was grandfathered in, because one employee, Jay Hopkins, opened his mouth, because I paid a little bit, didn't pay nothing. He got all pissed off about it and told everybody, and then they, instead of taking 5% out, till I caught up with what everybody else was paying 15, no, let's whack Tom all 15 at one time. That's how they treated me.
So we just need to be careful with grandfathering, because grandfathering has no meaning in this town.
That may be the case in every town.
I come from, was a VP of HR, I'm not in the public sector, in the private sector, and it's very easy in the private sector to do these things. I don't
Right.
understand in the public sector, possibly it isn't, but you make it a commitment to an employee, you make a commitment to an employee and you honor it.
Yeah, and we try to honor all the commitments that we see made to the employees. This board does.
Yeah.
And
So, and part of that as well, is coming up with some type of document to hand out to other select board members as they're elected, to let them know certain things. Because there's a huge learning curve to this whole thing, and especially with all the turnover in the town office over the last couple of years. There's a lot of the institutional knowledge that was lost, but then we got back with Mr. Coffey. He's helped righting the ship with us, and putting us in the back in the right direction. And the healthcare was one of those things that was changed a couple of years ago.
But then again, if we're having the turnover in the town office, possibly it could be something that recruiting costs, then again, and are we competitive? We
No,
need to be looking at that.
absolutely. And that's where the like the pay scales come in and predictable, pay rates. So it's a huge picture that we're looking at and a huge overhaul. And like I said, never hesitate to let us know when we've made a misstep. We're open to all suggestions, input, and we're not looking to just, dictate from the top down and just say, suck it up.
We appreciate that.
Well, and I think that's the difference between you guys and a lot of other select boards. As a taxpayer, I can say you guys at least will have a conversation. A lot of, maybe some of the other members wouldn't have, so, we appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
It's Samro.
I think mine might be quick. From what I've heard, and I don't wanna name names or anything, is if you don't like what's done here, you can leave. That's what
How's everybody sit down?
Yeah, and I'd like to just, I mean, previous select boards, they were elected officials, they served their time, and none of them are here to defend themselves, so
And
I'd
I-
like
well,
to
I
just
know
leave.
We're employees
that-
at will, and we can leave at will, and you can fire us at will. So, I mean, there's a certain limit of things, you can't demand a whole bunch of things and then say, well, they didn't give it to me. Well, at that point, you know, I can understand people saying that you can leave, but it sounds like you guys are not coming out straight and saying that.
No, this board is not of that motivation, Roger, at all.
But we respect your right to do so if you
Yeah.
so choose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Kathy Summerall, and, this is actually, I've thought about this a long time. If you're not, I do have some family members in, work for the town, and I guess I wouldn't know this if I hadn't had family members work for the town, but since we're talking about benefits, and it's just something that's been concerning for me, I was a nurse, and so I worked all shifts, and sometimes you had to work double shifts and whatever, but the highway department, and I know this costs money, but the highway department, when they work and they are plowing sometimes for 16, 18, 24 hours,
3 days.
and they do not, or longer, and they do, or they go home for a few hours and come back, and they do not, if they start on a Sunday or Monday, they don't get any overtime for working 24, 30 hours straight. Then by that time, they might be sick by the end of the week, and then if they don't get over 40 hours by the end of the week, they don't get any overtime. It's like, after their shift, if I worked more than my 8 hours, when I was working 8-hour shifts, I worked more than my 8 hours in that shift, I got, in a 24-hour period, I got, no matter if I had worked my 40 hours that week or 80 hours in the 2 week, I got overtime for it. But I just think, you know, we always hear about the police department having is safety. Well, plowing for the town during a storm, and they gotta plow till the storm is over, or they might go to sleep for a few hours and come back. So that's just a consideration. I hesitate to say things because people think, oh yeah, just because you have family that works in the town. But even if they didn't, I'm like, that is a lot that we are asking of them, and they don't get any overtime unless they have 40 hours by the end of the week. So if the storm starts on Sunday morning, they don't get any overtime to work 36 hours in a row, or 30 hours in a row, or 18 hours, or 16 hours, whatever it is. So that's just something to consider. It's usually only in the winters, that it happens in the summer usually, you know.
Mhm.
But, and it only happens during storms, you know. And yeah, if it's at the end of the week, okay, they get their overtime because they have their 40 hours, you know, more than 40 hours. But I just ask if you can look at that as a consideration. And like I said, I wouldn't have been aware of it. I never was aware of it until, you know, until family member were working in that department. I'm like, oh, really?
Okay.
I just like, you know.
I wasn't aware of that,
I
yeah.
think another thing, and this might be a small item that people aren't aware, these trucks aren't four-wheel drive. People might think these trucks are four-wheel drive, they can go anywhere on ice, snow, and everything else, but, I don't think they can.
Most towns aren't full drive.
Yeah.
I don't know any town that has full drive plow trucks, can't afford them.
No, but I mean, people think
Full drive
that,
is not the
people have
start.
certain ideas that it's so easy to plow, well, and then you hit somebody's mailbox and they're calling you up because you hit the mailbox,
Mhm.
you know? So, I mean, you look at those plows, they're pretty big units, and,
Yeah.
And
I
that's
don't
not
think.
the, that's not the.
Okay, that's a, yes,
I
ma'am.
would just like to let Samaram know that it is better though than it has been. Under previous, management in the highway department, a storm could happen on a Sunday, you could work 48 hours straight, or let's do 40 hours straight, and then the person who was in charge of the highway department would make you go home and not pay you for the rest of the week unless there was another storm,
Yeah,
so that
I-
you would never get overtime.
I understand that.
So under Pete Going, it has been so much better.
I understand that, and I'm not
so much
saying it's
better.
not Pete's decision anyway, you know, and I know that Pete has allowed them to work their shifts the rest of the week, so. But I realize, Mr. Going, I realize that's not, sorry, Peter.
Next time saying Pete, you might get mixed up.
Peter Going. But anyway, I understand, and it's not his decision to make that. I understand it's a policy thing, but I guess I just feel that would be something that could be looked at.
Okay, before we get too far off the rails here with suggestions, we can only,
I
take,
understand that.
sorry, take so much in tonight. Please utilize your supervisors. If you're having trouble getting through or not getting an answer, reach out to one of us.
Or Jim.
Yeah, or Jim. But there's no walls between us and any employee of the town or community member. All right, Jonathan, do you
I
have
have a
something?
quick question, who's the
Yep.
highway department liaison?
I am.
Are you gonna come down and see us once in a while?
I've been down a couple times to talk to Peter.
I haven't seen you, I'm there every day.
I have been down a couple times.
Well,
Okay.
Just, I mean, just make yourself known and then ask what, you know, cause the previous selectmen we had, they were more coming down, asking what was going on a regular basis.
I'll make a
Take
point
ride in
of
a
it.
plow truck, I don't know if it's legal or not, but I'll take you out on a bad day and see what it's like.
I'd love to take a
It's not an
ride.
easy
But you don't want
job.
to take a ride out.
Alright, so is there any other comments, questions, concerns before we wrap this section up, or?
I
Yes,
just
sir.
have a comment that in this time, this day and age, businesses are offering more, not less, to new employees, you know, so,
Okay,
you know,
Can't go
just a
back.
comment.
You can't come back.
alright, thank you.
I guess just one more comment, I guess, one more comment is that I think some of our employees don't make as huge wages as some places maybe, but the benefits was what, attracted them, offset, the benefits offset the wages. Maybe they weren't making top dollars, but they did get good benefits, I think, you know, and so I think that's what some things in cap. And anyway, we really appreciate what you guys are doing.
Okay, and like with some of the benefits and the pay aspect, when we looked at it, what we were looking at doing with pay, at year 3, the employees would actually start getting more money, like in their pockets, and it would offset some of the, like the loss of the 2 days or whatever in cash each week, but, like I said, it wasn't finalized, we're gonna continue to review it, and, you know, everybody will know about it before it happens, and everybody's happy. All right? Well, thank you for coming in. And
Great, thank you for
feel
your
welcome.
time.
You're more than welcome to stay.
I'm excited.
No? No takers?
Thanks, Chief.
You all have a good evening.
They don't even know I'm here.
What she said was correct.
What's that?
I just wanna make sure.
Many years ago, first day
Oh.
I ran into this problem. The sun is shining at 8 o'clock in the morning. The storm is coming at 9 o'clock at night. You're all called down.
Yep.
You're not gonna go out and work and do anything. In other words, there's an concerted effort defer, let's say, maintenance items and stuff like that in the storm,
Yeah.
to make sure you didn't go over 40 hours, if you could do it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it was wrong or whatever it was, but it just,
Yep.
it shows the control that existed at that time.
Well, just means we need to look at the budget for overtime,
Yeah.
how we handle that.
Yeah. I don't know what the heck this stutter thing is that I picked up since being sick too. I don't know if it's just,
Well, it's
I
just,
feel like start going and then.
you're a little out of practice.
Yeah.
You weren't prepared for the firestorm that Bert and I had whipped up for you.
Blessing
That's my
on
oxygen reader. That's good. I'm glad everybody came in. I wish it wasn't in a meeting like this, but,
It's okay.
but, I wish the input could have been given in a different way.
Well, live and learn.
If you look at your policy book, it says a meeting a year
I'm sitting here
with the
thinking that this
employees,
could help some.
With the
Yeah.
selectmen.
Yeah, we're supposed to do it.
Because of.
Yeah, we just had
by
it.
the end of the year. We haven't had it done for the last 2 years.
We just did it.
No,
No.
this is a meeting where they can bring their suggestion box,
Ah,
which we started going into, but then our agenda didn't.
make allowances.
I've worked with the chief's suggestion of moving hours, sick hours around. In other words, I donate my sick hours to you because you got sick. And you were running out.
Oh, yeah, I think we're all
I've
very
worked with
interested.
towns that have done that and have been very successful.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
What a fantastic thing.
Yeah, the state of Mass does that.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
There's always something good out of something stressful, right?
So, I mean,
Yeah, that's a
even,
good point, Mike.
Thank you.
and that may be the kind of thing that needs to be brought into, I'm just thinking out loud.
No.
Into a personnel policy.
And I don't know if that even goes into a, maybe it does
It
go into
does.
the handbook.
Yeah.
But
The ability
there's
to
some-
do it should be in an employee handbook, because it would give the rules for it.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Well,
I've been here 14 years, haven't used one day sick leave.
so you've been losing them?
Yeah, I've been losing them.
See, that's not right either.
Well, I think we're gonna tackle that, aren't we?
So you do have a subject that's been brought up and that something could be
Yeah.
changed.
Of course, the other question is how generous is too generous?
That's always, that's question.
Me, I don't mind losing it, but I think the time I did lose could be put into the bank for somebody who really needs it. Somehow.
So that's the liability aspect of,
Yeah,
that just piles up unendingly.
I heard you say,
Yeah.
because you wrote up a big check, whose fault was that?
Yeah.
Previous board before you guys get on there.
Yeah,
Because also says if you don't use your vacation time, you lose it.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, the bank up that amount of time,
yeah.
the board problem before you came in.
yeah, it almost demands that somebody scan the system. I feel like I have a sick day coming on. Simple as that.
What?
Jennifer, you had
Well,
some.
no, like, just pay time off.
Yeah.
That's why we removed the sick time.
I know,
part of
I
it.
know.
Like, I don't care if somebody's sick or not. If they
No,
need a day
we
off, they
don't,
take a
you know,
day off.
they don't have to
Yeah.
fuss with an honor system.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why we wrote it that way.
But then again, if the honor system's working, then
Well, it does for 80% of the population.
That's okay. I don't mind.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's no issues in my agency I can speak for that guys that come into work when I wish they had actually stayed home. You know what I mean? So we don't have that. Most people in my department have probably maxed out on their time because they know the value of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And even though they theoretically could take 4 days off this year and go back to 120 again, they haven't.
Well, we either need to come up with a bank system or a compensation system.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Alright.
Well, certainly we can look at a couple of other places that have it. We don't have to invent a whole new wheel.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
think
out
most
there
of-
for us to plagiarize.
most of
And
the
then you
municipalities around us have pretty much what we
There's
have.
a lot of variation to the whole thing, like
Oh, yeah.
what you're giving us, so we just gotta find the right mix for our community.
I
Alright,
don't believe I'm on the agenda so if this is a bad time, I can.
nope,
I did, before the topic switched, I think Jennifer had her hand up.
No, I'm sorry,
Oh.
Jeff.
I was just gonna make a suggestion that if it's possible, like in Peter's situation where he's lost his bank, why couldn't it be an incentive for people not to be sick or call in sick, to have the option to get that paid out at the end of the year, if that's financially sound?
Well, we did it for vacation. I don't know why we couldn't do it for personal time off.
yeah.
All back on the table again.
Then there is an issue with the retirement. If somebody retires, the retirement system deals with stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be another thing to look at.
Methodology. Mhm.
Does that, like, in the state of Mass, I know my husband was a state worker, and all their bank's time, they could give it to other people, but whatever they were left with when they retired, they would leave with that at retirement, and their vacation time, PTO time.
Mm-hmm.
So is that how it affects the retirement?
Yeah.
You saying they could leave it with the town?
No, no,
No,
no,
they get paid out.
leave, they retire with that,
Okay.
They get a cash paycheck.
yeah,
Was there a limit?
no.
Okay.
They had, yes, because they had certain amount of, bank time that they could have.
Yeah.
And if they were gonna, so they would use it. So basically, they would have to just take that time off whether they needed it or not.
From an accounting perspective, okay, you have to be, I'm not saying you should take everything away from people, but you have to be careful because you've gotta book that liability. You've gotta show that liability on your books.
Yep.
And budget for it, you're
But
right.
if you have caps or limits, then you know how far you can go and you can make sense out of it, okay? I've seen, I didn't see this in New Hampshire, but I saw this in other places, states where public workers would defer all the overtime to the most senior people. And they would work all the overtime, and that would swell the pension over the last, let's say, 2 or 3 years. And so it was done artificially. And so you gotta be careful with these kind of things. I mean,
we don't see that here, but.
no, I don't see that here,
Yeah.
but from an accounting point of view, you can't just have, if you have unlimited, then you have to figure out, how do I transfer that into a accounting system balance sheet? Because I have to allow for what people could possibly take.
Right.
At the end of the year, I gotta run around and add up all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think on our, our current number of full-time employees in the current package or benefit time off benefits, it can be tracked.
Oh, yeah.
It can be tracked. I mean, it's,
Oh,
we have 6 employees.
It is tracked, and the auditors can say, I want all your, everything that you show is owed still and stuff, and they can deal with that.
All right. Okay. Chief, what do you have for us?
Yes, sir. I know we went back and forth on the tower proposal and looking at different ways to increase our, or better our infrastructure. Last comment I had, I think it was Mr. Summer and I were going back and forth, and it was my understanding that the board had approved $36,000 cap to make the improvements.
Right.
Through this process, we went from putting the equipment onto a new tower site, meaning cell tower build in our equipment, and then a short time ago, 2 or 3 months ago, I learned that the tower, or this new cell tower was off the table. Then I said, hey, remember I sent the email out and said, hey, we should do something to our existing tower. We'll call that the pole, because it's really just a pole. And then I got a quote for that, it was $35,000 and change to get that pole site up to speed and operating more efficiently. Then I heard the $36,000 was the cap, and then that the cell tower was back on the table, and that potentially the new equipment could go on the cell tower.
Okay.
The problem I have is I did reach back out to Lee Lemoyne from Modular Communications, and his feedback on that is, the original quote for the cell tower was like 60-something thousand, 36,000 is essentially about half, and it's just not possible.
So what different piece of equipment is going on the cell tower?
Yeah, it's just that the cell tower has very finite, regulations of what type of equipment, the weight of the equipment, the placement of the equipment, the distribution of the equipment is all very precise. It's all for weight, right? Guiding off the tower for wind hazards, and any other thing like that. So I'm not technical enough to answer that with any greater degree than that. But I did print out his lengthy email today of why and some suggestions. But basically he's saying $36,000 is not going to do that. It will do an upgrade to the pole, but that's it.
So then if we upgrade the pole, none of that equipment can be used on the tower, is that
It's a
right?
potential that some of it may and some of it may not. So what we're faced with is if the cell tower is going to be built and we want to take on that space, the $36,000 is not going to do it.
Okay.
If we upgrade the existing pole site with something that's here, which is now yet another quote, and it's $36,300 because the prices keep going up. It's better, but it's not taking advantage of a new tower to increase our communication. Anyway, I think at some point, the board should sit down with Lee Lemoyne. I can't answer your questions, just to be frank, because I don't know enough about it.
All right.
I know the very rudimentary of a tower and what it does, but as far as like the specs and all that stuff,
All right.
I think at some point it would.
Okay, can I recap, or at least recap some of our reasoning when we approved that 36,000?
Sure.
Okay. We understood, please correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, that it was gonna take 15 weeks or so to obtain the equipment to upgrade the pole.
Yeah, I think between the.
And we had a quote of 35,000 and change, so that's why we approved 36,000.
Right.
Okay, and we thought that was a fixed, firm quote. Now, we also had, at the same time, Lou Alvarez in here, and he's been negotiating back and forth with Vertex, who is the tower, the contractor, if you will. I felt, and he said that he thought he got some hard agreement from Mr. Parisi, who's the attorney for Vertex. Knowing Mr. Parisi, and he's a very smooth operator, I didn't think he got anything in writing, and I wasn't confident that we would actually see a tower being erected come July. I felt that we needed to upgrade the pole, and we were going to be stuck with it, but we were also under the impression that a large portion of the equipment could be transferred, even if it was installed on the pole, off the pole and onto the tower. That was somewhat reusable.
And I think some of it is.
And we just don't know how much is.
And Lee may be able to answer those questions.
Yeah, and I understand the balancing act on the towers, and I think you have something of an understanding of that too, because you do work with towers, right, Jason? Yeah. That it has to be balanced just so for wind loads and guy wires and so forth. And it's a very high tower. It's going to go up 195 feet, and that's a lot of wind load. But given what you're telling me now, that firm fixed price is no longer firm and fixed, so that 36,000 we authorized to spend you is no longer adequate. I still think we need to upgrade your pole. I still think we need to order the equipment, but I'm not holding my breath to wait for that big tower to ever be erected in the next year or even 2 years.
Nevertheless, I think we should sit down with the, what was his name, Lee?
Yeah.
Because if we can buy something that can be moved,
Yeah.
we need to weigh that cost.
Cost.
Throw 37,000.
36,300.
Yeah.
At this, and then come June, find out, we do have the tower. Okay, now we need another 60 grand to get, that would not be a good
and
use
the
of
other
our
thing is,
money.
I would like to obligate this year's monies rather than.
It may not be possible, I don't know.
Well, I
How
mean,
quick could we get
I think we
Lee?
could, sign a contract within the next 2 weeks if we have an understanding, but we're getting awful close to the holidays. Availability of the gentleman you're negotiating with could be in question. We're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place here.
So how bad is the equipment on the old pole now?
So it's very aged. It's the original equipment, most of it from the time it was erected, I think it was 2011. And some of the equipment that went up at that point, from my understanding, was already used equipment. Some of it was even donated by Lee Lemoyne, the owner of Modular Communications, to make the project complete. And even since that time that the project was complete, within the last couple of years, our batteries, which are our backup system to the solar, to charge our antennas in the event of a power outage, he went and found some more batteries on his own money, time, and resources, and went up there and put added batteries to the bank because the others were so aged they weren't really holding much charge. And then that was on his own dime. So we recently lost telemetry equipment, communication between the tower and our telemetry equipment on top of Highbridge Elementary School, which feeds back to Lee the status of that tower. Does it have power? What's the backup battery power levels? You know, what's the communications abilities of that tower? Those have stopped working. So now, you know, the only time he knows if there's something wrong is, oh, the radio doesn't work. Or he'll have to actually go up to the tower and try to figure out what it is. So
Did
those,
he say when he could meet with us?
I thought we had a plan to meet today, and then I was told it was not necessary.
Yeah, that was by me.
Yeah.
And that was before what you just thought.
Yeah, but when you told me, I went back to him saying, hey, now they're thinking of buying this stuff and putting it on the new tower. I know
And
the
that
last bid was
changed.
60-something thousand. I can't see, I mean, how you would do it,
Yeah.
but I'm coming to you for your professional advice, and this is what I got for a response.
So what we'd like to see is to use whatever equipment we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Not buy
I think
two
this,
new
some of that is
Because I don't think
addressing
it has
that.
to be too complicated, because it's basically just, what can we buy now that we can use later to minimize the upgrade charge,
That's
like
how
costs?
I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Go
and,
forward.
And I
and,
think you'll accommodate that, like you said, we're just running into that, you know, we have a hard line coming up here at the end of the year.
and, you know, the truth is, if that tower goes down this winter, we're still gonna be out for 15 weeks, because we just don't have the equipment to make it work.
Potentially, yeah.
And if it goes down, and we're screwed for 15 weeks.
Well,
I,
we
yeah.
have to get ahead of it, right?
That's what I'm getting at, is we need to get ahead of it. We have a lead time of 15 weeks here. We simply need to pull the trigger. And I think what we need to do is just approve the increased cost of $300. We gave them $36,000 before. Let's give them $36,300. Get a hard contract and let's get it signed.
Well, I don't see the harm in getting a little bit more information on what can be reused, and if it's gonna cost us $45,000 now and just $20,000 later, which was only 5,000 more than 60 to go on to the tower. But if we go and pull the trigger for 37 now and only $10,000 worth of equipment is reusable.
No.
Then we're
We
going
do
with
need
it.
a better understanding of it, and if he's able to communicate that to us, even if he can't attend a meeting, you understand what we're.
Oh, absolutely.
what
No.
we're driving
Yeah, no,
at, so
I
if
should
we
be able
could.
to
They turn around
Yeah.
pretty quick information wise.
Trust me, yeah.
By Tuesday.
I'm
No.
not technical enough.
You know,
to get the
I don't
answers
even
you
think we need an explanation. I think we need to pull the trigger now, period. We know what our time frame is. We know that the new tower is iffy. We know the equipment on the pole is failing. As you said, want to get ahead of it, do it now, period.
Well, the thing is that.
It doesn't matter how much equipment is transferable or not.
It does to me. I don't know, but I think it does
And
to Jason as well.
It does to me as well.
The trouble is with electronics, it's obsolete
never
as soon as
know.
you buy it.
No, I understand that, Peter, but at the same time, we can try to be,
Well, I know,
Yeah.
so like what we tried to do back in 2011. Do what we did up there and look how long it took, 10 years.
We can invite them in and,
I'm
you know,
talking 6 more days, you know, like have.
But even
something
if it
ready
could be
for
done in an
next
email,
week.
do you understand what we're driving at?
Oh, I do, it's
Is it addressed in this new quote, if we were to dig into it? Do you think it is?
to some degree.
So-
And he
But
actually
we
gives-
haven't
he
seen
also
this.
gives, hey, this is what I would do in the interim, while we wait for the cell
See,
tower.
so I think we need to see this email.
well,
And if I could make a suggestion, I would, if you guys do, if the board does want to have some more information, to have Jim reach out to Lee, and that way he can set the appointment for you guys and just get a meeting going. I
well,
would do that,
I
like-
think we need to have the
If it's-
appointment next week,
Yeah,
It's
period.
needed, but if we could all review this email, it may be answered for us. right
Well,
here.
let's
Yeah,
read
that's
it.
an option, he could WebEx in too, so, you know, if he's somewhere, out of he travels a lot for work, so he's he's building and making some towers all over Massachusetts, New Hampshire.
Yeah, I mean,
He
you know,
might be able to WebEx in at one point,
If
I
necessary.
highly recommend it, I think he would be very enlightened.
Yeah.
you know, I just don't think we need to dither about it that much more. You know, we've talked about it ad nauseum.
No, we haven't. Come now.
I'll get you a waste paper basket.
Jeez. All right, while you're reading that, I'm gonna take a little stroll down the hall. Excuse me.
I did.
Good.
It didn't.
Excuse me, Jim.
Sure.
Anybody want a cookie?
Sounds like dinner.
Why don't you go get us coffee?
I would. They're probably closed, they have no house.
It's true.
Who's closed?
Probably Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Oh, I went into I stopped to pick up something at Dunkin' Donuts when I got gas over in Rizzo. And I saw a sign on the door announcing that they changed their opening hours
Yeah.
Yeah.
to 4:30 in the morning. So I asked the woman, this is, what time were you opening up? She
4
said,
o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Yeah. And they apologized for the inconvenience.
Cause the girl that was opening at 4
Yeah,
just couldn't do it. I don't know what a half an hour makes, but
it may have to do with home and kids and it could be a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Could be needing some sleep.
yeah.
You want copies of that?
Yeah.
I don't
was
think
thinking
Bert
that
wants to
myself.
read it.
I will read it.
Oh, you do want to?
I do want to read it.
Okay.
And if you have me talk to the guy, I would at least read it. I've taken care of towers.
And if you guys want that forwarded to you in your email.
I would appreciate.
Yeah, I can send that to you tomorrow morning.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
I thought I was helping you.
Just
I
this?
pulled the
or
staple
all of
out.
it?
I don't
I
know.
built
All right.
I built towers up to 204 feet,
Kill a tree.
and I've been responsible for
But
towers
basically
up
just
to
says-
20 feet.
You know, the old equipment's at the point of, past the point of failure, and
So he feels like it's a dire.
Those
yeah,
300
and then
feet
the equipment that
There
goes
was
on
no guy
the
wire.
pole
Wow.
could be
They were
moved to
big.
some other town
Alright.
building if we wanted it for enhanced,
The
like,
telephone repeaters.
Yep.
connectivity or something down the road, if it's not,
Remember,
Not
there's a
usable
lot of
up on the
cities
tower,
and towns, even
'cause there's so many
Manchester,
aspects
you
of
go
the
to
tower
Manchester,
build
if you looked into the
that
center of the city, there was
he
a
doesn't
concrete
know
structure coming
and
up off
won't
the
know
telephone
until
building with
there's
all the
final
horns on
plans.
top.
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
The
all
design
this
of the
stuff,
tower.
so,
Alright.
you know, Bert was saying, we could be years
Good
out
job.
It was
on
always fun.
this
Yeah.
thing still,
That's awesome.
and then the standards are always changing.
I got a commercial radio telephone.
Alright.
So it's hard to predict what they're gonna,
Ad nauseum?
It's getting worse.
yeah, this is the first time I've talked about it.
No, you already had your share of nauseum.
I was an agent back in Dewsbury.
Right.
So, I think we just have to, you know, go forward and make the purchase. That's what it sounds like, that's what his suggestion is. And it made sense that we could take the equipment and
I
use
can
it
see the
somewhere
minutes
else.
now.
What's that?
The board mumbled a decision. It was incoherent on the TV. Because they didn't speak
Oh.
into the microphone. Gotta
They
speak
gave
up.
you like headsets.
Hey, I've been accused of mumbling, so I can do this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, I should have made myself a copy.
And when you guys approve the money, where was it coming from?
It's
It was
coming-
coming
Police
from
budget.
Police budget this year.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I move that we approve ordering and installing equipment for the pole, for the police repeating system, and hire Mr. Lemoyne to purchase and install it for the amount of $36,300.
Well, it's not the true amount, Bert.
Okay, let me grab the true amount then. I'm sorry, do you want to say 37, just in case?
Sure.
I'll amend that.
Up to
$37,000.
You want to authorize me to sign the agreement?
Hold on, I'm just gonna let Jason.
If you vote,
Yeah.
because it would speed it up.
Motion on the floor.
I bought a truck, I ought to be able to buy this. I haven't had a ride in the truck yet, though.
Yeah.
Go for a winter ride in the snowstorm.
I have
Saturday.
gone out in years past in trucks that were unbelievably poor in condition, plowing roads in this town. Okay. You know, with a plow driver. I quite honestly think it's worth going out in the storm and riding with somebody and, you know.
Now, Peter's took me out on a clear day on an old bumpy road.
No, you wanna go out
Got me all shook up.
at night in a snowstorm.
With the lights going and the snow coming in your eyes.
Right.
Or ice, or, freezing rain.
In the freezing rain, and you're trying to go up hills and corners and
You're trying to back up Page Hill and stuff, you know?
We have lost trucks on Porter Hill.
Yep.
Lucky the house is still standing.
what is our house supply?
It's, you know, really, if you stop and think about it, it is one of municipal jobs. The three most hazardous are highway, police, fire probably gets in there too. I think the one that's most dangerous, trash, solid waste jobs. Where'd Joe go? I don't know, I just ran the compactor, but, you know, those things, you know, and
Well, especially things hanging off the back
highway
too,
jobs,
going
as
45
far as
miles an
injuries
hour,
go,
like guy
are
just
very
like
high.
Oh, I would imagine,
on
yeah.
a rail.
Yeah. So some of the things that we really didn't go out tonight is, many of the municipal jobs that we have are high-risk jobs. From, you know, workplace injury, which is why
Oh,
we
yeah.
want to minimize them.
Oh, yeah.
okay,
Absolutely.
Compared to the private sector.
Yep.
The average private sector, we know there's some crazy private.
I'll show you when I'm hanging out at the fifth floor of a building up in Chelsea next week.
Where you going?
Tethered off.
What's that?
It's a fifth floor building unit.
Oh,
Yeah, it was like a, I don't know, 12-foot by 8-foot opening.
you
I
hang,
gotta
you
look
hang
around.
from ropes and scaffolds and put windows
No,
in?
I won't. If I'm hanging outside the building, there's a problem.
Oh, you're not 80 floors up with the window cleaner?
No.
Okay, I know you do windows, I just don't know why.
Not doing that, yeah.
So it looks like he's eliminated the solar chargers. I didn't see. Let's see, with the generator, motor-driven generator is what would be required. Just to include a plug-in port, the equipment where a portable generator could be placed for emergency charging. So in the event of an emergency, someone would have to run up there. I don't think the generator's included in this.
Nope, no generator.
Yeah, which I think
Yeah,
we
well,
have
you
a
would-
few
You
generators.
wouldn't want to leave one up there, you probably.
No.
The only thing be left would be a pad.
Yeah.
I think before we did have the solar recharging.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it was done.
I don't think he took it off necessarily.
He says, I doubled the battery, eliminated the solar, and reworked all the math on the DC
Okay, he's
cable.
doubled the batteries, there's the
Yeah.
kind of work. If you're gonna have, you know, a real long outage or something.
yeah, I
then
mean,
somebody can run up there.
solar doesn't work worth a dang in the course of a snowstorm.
So,
It's fine.
but if we already have the generators in place, and like when I met with Mike, talk about our last meeting,
And Windows and
we are
Texas
very
work.
heavily relying on Lee's expertise to tell us what his
Okay, we'll
he
get
thinks the
together.
life expectancy of this stuff is, and I agree with what both of you have said, that he's telling us it's done. And hearing that there's a shortage telemetry unit, that seems like it's a pretty handy thing to have.
Yeah, it just helps with the, you know, keeps
Give
the
you a heads
status
up.
and the health of the tower. And a heads up in case something were to happen, and then, you know, troubleshoot can start from a remote location versus climbing a ladder and getting on a tower.
Yeah.
You know, which is very helpful in most instances.
You don't,
Make a motion.
you don't have a.
The motion's on the table.
33.
Oh, what?
No,
Mo-
for
Telephone
37,000.
37,
Telephone line.
not to
No,
exceed
no.
You don't have a
37,000.
copy
Motion's on the table, just needs a second.
Over the last.
So is this, yeah, is this motion an amendment to our, it is an
Yeah.
amendment to our
Yeah.
previous motion?
Right,
I second that.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. And make a motion to give Jim the authority to approve the contract.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Mr. Coffey, I can meet with you tomorrow, and I can just quickly jot down what you need.
We can meet tomorrow,
Okay, thank you.
depending on how long this meeting goes.
Bert said it's going all night. He's bringing the coffee.
Hope not. Today started at like 2:30 in the morning.
We have
Oh,
a
no.
gen- We have a gentleman
I've
here
had
who's been
terrible sleep
ill,
the
and
last
we want
week.
it, we
Me
want it
too,
to
I was up
stay
at
out.
4, I couldn't sleep anymore.
Yeah, you can't push it, don't push it.
Hey, don't start, Mama.
All right.
No, I'm serious.
Did you did you work a detail up on the hill where they had where they're giving the shots?
I did,
That got pretty busy up there, didn't it?
309,
309,
309 vaccines.
and they came from all over.
Wow. Was that one of the mobile?
No, it was
No.
just, it wasn't a mobile one, they
It was
helped,
in the family practice.
Okay.
921,
Medical.
E21.
Yep.
I mean, there were people there from Claremont, Henniker, all over the place, somebody
Yeah.
from Seacoast.
Yeah, there was a couple people from the Seacoast that I ran into, yeah. And they were doing boosters and such.
No,
Wow, from the Seacoast too, huh? Guess I didn't think of that too when we were asked to bring that mobile unit here. I was only thinking of Ipswich, and if people wanted it, it was available, but apparently there's a need for.
regionally, and this,
Yeah.
Oh,
this,
desperate.
this is the second one they've run. up.
Second one here, and then they had Monadnock, or that establishment ran several locations on Saturday. Keene here and another location.
And they're giving appointments 2 weeks out.
And this one allowed walk-ins and appointments.
Well, this is great, because I got a booster, and I just walked in, got the booster, and left. Okay.
They did a really good job, it was very smooth.
But I didn't see you up out on a white pedestal with
I
white
watched you come in and go, you didn't see me, did you? I was standing right there,
gloves.
yeah.
But you should have been on a white pedestal.
You
with
weren't
white
driving your
gloves.
Subaru, you were driving a Toyota.
Okay,
or what?
next.
No,
Okay.
I'm driving a gray Subaru.
Gray Subaru?
Chief, did you,
I
have
did
anything, did you have anything else for us tonight, or?
No, thanks for your consideration, that's all I appreciate.
Okay,
Alright.
cool. Roger, did you have anything?
Well, I was gonna see if something came up at this meeting,
Okay.
We'll just say what you were thinking.
the file cabinet.
I haven't gotten there yet, actually.
See, I was waiting.
Okay. Peter, did you have anything else, or, okay. So, on to the next. What do we
Let's
got?
start with the file cabinet, so Roger can go home.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta be here by 3 tomorrow.
Roger came to me, and discussed the need for a fireproof file cabinet, for payroll records, which has to be kept for I don't know how long.
40 years, 50 years, something like
Some
that.
crazy length of time that we have to keep certain records.
Okay.
But anyway, ideally, you use a fireproof file cabinet and these things can cost a ton of money. He's found one used for sale. So what we really want is the board's blessing and go and getting it. I think it's gonna cost us more to go get it.
Well, what happened was, I came down, I emailed them on Thursday, I didn't hear anything, so I came down Friday, and I thought if they emailed me, it was a free one. And they said, if I got information, I'd talk to Jim if he was here and see if I could get the highway to go pick it up. It was in Stratham.
Yeah.
So I looked up a new one, it was $3,000 for a new one. Well, I mean, I was gonna get permission for this.
This is Greenville, there's no way.
No, I'm thinking, so for a couple $100, we could've got this, I thought.
Yeah.
Well, my other choice was to get it for myself and then maybe try to pawn it off on the town eventually, and that doesn't always work. She says don't get stuff for other people.
Or
So-
you shouldn't be buying it.
So, it was free anyway, so I wouldn't have had to.
No, but you shouldn't be paying any
Okay.
expense for it.
So then, but I could've used it at home. It didn't go anywhere else. But anyway, so then Friday, I emailed Friday, I got the information on it. About an hour or a half or whatever, after I emailed, they emailed back and said, you need 2 guys, 2 people, 2 to 3 people, and you gotta go for about 5 steps out of a bulkhead, and it was available when well, by that time it was too late, and by Monday, they said it's already taken.
So what's the new one?
So, I mean, but there was another one on for $350, and I just didn't dare email him, because, I mean, well, I did Thursday, I think I might have, but anyway, I don't know if that's available. But, so I guess my question is, do we wanna try to get something like that, or just go out and buy a $3,000 one, or don't buy any right now at all?
Well, that's your department, the accounting, and if there's a tool that you need,
We can
Up to your discretion.
We can do $500.
you don't need to come to us for anything until it hits the $5,000 mark, if it's in your budget. So if the money's there, you know, like if there's money in the budget to make the purchase.
His budget's a 40, pretty much, it can be the 4130 budget, which is the town's
So
administrative
that'd be
budget.
Yeah, but what he was saying is he was asking Peter Goey to send some of his guys up there.
Well, I don't have 2 guys on me.
Well, no, that's fine too. So then you talk to Peter Goey,
So I
and
can
you just
charge
ask.
him labor?
Yeah, if you want to, like charge his
Charge
budget,
it- charge
however
it
you
to
guys
his
work it
department.
out.
Charge it to his department,
That's right,
it's
yeah.
not
But
yours.
this doesn't sound like it is anything that
If
needs to
we-
be.
Yeah,
approved by
Roger's the one
board.
that doesn't get the new desk or the chair or the, you know,
No, I-
whatever, he takes up this,
I-
you know, you need to,
I don't wanna
waste money
spend,
though.
I don't wanna spend $3,000 on a new file cabinet. I don't think. we
But
need
you
to do
are
that.
in need of a new file cabinet.
What?
Yeah.
You call
Well, we need one, we have one down there that has stuff in it that's overflowing that, is not fire, I don't think it's a fire resistant one. So I just
And
think
it
it's
needs to
better
be
to have
locked.
one that is, and at least put the payroll records in there.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll tell you
if
what,
that's your recommendation.
if you are willing to find bargains for the town, I think this board is very appreciative of that.
Very appreciative,
Yes.
Roger.
Jim, you might wanna call the White Farm, sometimes they just had an auction in October, so between now and May, they might have one.
Yeah, they have those things in Concord.
You mean the
State
does?
surplus.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, the health trust got rid of a whole bunch of cabinets, but I don't think they were, I don't know if they had any fireproof ones.
Yeah. And Peter, can we depend on interdepartment cooperation?
I don't know.
You charge somebody else's budget.
All depends on you two. If we had a meeting one night, now we'll get the 3rd ringleader in
We'll have,
there is a
That's a good
private-
thing.
we're gonna finish that.
So you know what, Peter, you will help out the other department. This is what we do, help each other.
All right. Yeah, if you can find one, Roger, go ahead and put it in your budget.
We can find it, yeah.
Well, and if there's money,
I
then
mean,
we
I
gotta
just
do
said,
is spend the
right, I
money
just said,
in
right,
this
let's
budget.
run it by the board, okay, you know,
Yep.
we're doing that.
Done.
And they
Next.
really, I mean, on those things, you gotta act pretty quick sometimes, and so you
Yep.
don't really have time to wait for a meeting, you know, like a.
No, that's like I
2
said.
days meeting.
There's a place over in I know it's
Up
still
to
there.
$5,000, Roger, you don't need our approval.
They still
Okay.
there?
If you have the money.
Yeah. You talking about Hudson? No, not Hudson, but,
One in Jaffrey there,
yeah, I
Grace
thought,
Electric.
I went there a while ago and he didn't look like he was there anymore. I couldn't get in there anyway, I don't know. We've gotten stuff from, in the past, people have gotten stuff from there. In fact, I think one of my cabinets in my office came from
I
there.
got stuff from other towns to there, yeah.
All right. Do you mind if we, do you feel satisfied with that answer, or you have all the flexibility in the world to do,
The answer is yes.
to do what it takes?
The answer's yes, do it.
That's all I need.
Let's
If
go.
Peter gives you a hard time, let me know.
I know you will.
Get an extra snowbank.
Thank you.
All right, next.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night,
Take
see you
care of
tomorrow,
yourself.
Roger. Bye.
All right, what else do we got, Jim?
Okay, along the same lines,
All right.
Peter, were you staying, or
Huh?
were we gonna have a non-public?
We need to have a
Follow up.
non-public.
we need to finish
Okay.
it non-public.
Yeah,
That was gonna
follow up
be
on
good.
our discussion.
Yes.
All right, I think we,
Well,
We don't
it
have
would
too
be
much left
without
on
Peter
the
though.
agenda.
No, it would
Not
be a
too much left
non-public
on the
without
agenda.
Peter.
Without Peter?
Without Peter.
Oh, is it?
I would think so. We have the first half of it. We need to bring Sean up to speed, but I don't think Peter would be involved in that portion.
Sorry for, confusion. Learning my way
No, it
around
wasn't
this.
confusion, because it was said at the meeting, but, you know.
I said regarding.
okay, so maybe if you could just hang out for the first portion of it, yeah. yeah.
Okay,
Please,
fine,
thank you, Peter.
fine.
All right, yeah, it'd be good to have.
Yep, all right. So, next item,
Okay,
Mr. Administrator.
one of the things I learned a while ago was working with CADNet, who does our computer work, is that we do have a program, and apparently I've budgeted money for retiring workstations as they become
Let's sleep.
obsolete or reach their planned end of life, or also planned obsolescence, okay?
Yeah,
And I would like to look at, between now and the end of the year, of replacing one or two of them. He told me the one I use in Rogers are ones that should go, okay?
okay.
But if we defer it, and we have, we have money left over, but then you have to reallocate it to go do more, and so,
Yeah.
it's better off,
Yeah,
Watching
we
your
have
work.
this money now.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm not
Jennifer,
looking at
didn't
spending
your-
any money we don't have.
Yeah.
Didn't your computer go down last year? Or am I thinking of something else? No?
We purchased
Wasn't there an
it.
issue
I
in
think
the?
there's an additional one purchased, but I don't.
Oh, did we?
recall. Yeah,
I would I'd go back to the guy that takes care of our computers and defer to him as the two that are most in need of replacement.
yeah, please, if you can make it fit into this
I'm
budget,
not,
yeah, that'd be better.
this isn't gonna
Yes,
be
he
like,
is right, I did have an issue.
this isn't gonna be like not paving Wilson Hill Road and paving Hooker
Yeah.
Pond.
Yeah, so that's fine, Jim. Right? Yeah,
Good.
No, that's how I choose them. I go to the guy who works on them, takes care of them, and can look at each one, knows the specs on it, the operating system, and says, these two gotta go.
perfect. Yeah, guys, I think yours is Windows 7 or something like that, right?
3.1.
Abacus.
Okay. I met today, this is just FYI, I met today unexpectedly with somebody from the state licensing bureau. They license people like doctors and plumbers and all that. And so they have various inspectors for these various disciplines. And I believe this guy is a mechanical engineer, and he works in the plumbing and other related things. He was in he was in New Ipswich and stopped by the town office to let us know that he has had conversations with bath fitters who are doing plumbing without a licensed plumber on site. So I gave him Donovan's phone number, and he's gonna give Rick a call.
What was the point of it?
His point is you can't rip the bathtub and everything out without having a licensed plumber to do it. For money, you can do it yourself at your home.
But so I guess I don't understand his motivation for stopping in.
He stopped,
Was he
to
soliciting
tell
work?
us, he observed something that he thought was unlawful taking place. And his question to us was, on our permitting process, do we require a permit? I'm guessing we don't require a permit if somebody's ripping the tub enclosure out, and new sink and vanity and stuff inside. But New Hampshire has rules as to when you get into certain ends, like the drains coming up through and stuff, you start pulling them out and replacing them. Now you need a plumber. Now, so I just mentioned it, FYI.
Yeah.
There's no.
Yeah, so
Right.
you're very,
Yeah, he goes around town to town,
yeah,
checking on people and asking them for their permits, basically.
okay.
This guy
It
from
was-
Bat Fitters?
No, he
this is
caught the
the-
guy from Bath
Oh, I
Fitters.
see, I see.
He's
Yeah,
an
and-
And I
inspector
only
for the
know this
state.
because the guys that were
I'm sorry,
working in here on the heat,
Heating system, they know him.
yeah, because they know of him, because they consistently have to show proof of permit.
I see.
Okay,
In other words, you can't hire yourself out as a plumber and not be a licensed plumber.
yep,
You could be an apprentice working under a master plumber or a licensed, somebody licensed. So I just thought I would mention that. Okay. The property sale is on for January 22nd. The advertisements will be coming out shortly. They'll be quite visible. And one of the nice things was that I give you an update on the tax maps. They work. They're online. They're not online to the public yet because we have maybe 10 or 15 discrepancies between our database and the map that we have to fix. And most of them I can go right down and look at it and I know what to fix it. Okay. But I showed Jennifer how we get a butter list. And I just wanted, good point. And,
Microphone,
what's that? Oh,
microphone.
the microphone, yes, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Okay. So anyway, you know, I go to the address, I click on it, I then go down, I find it. Okay, so it searches and brings it up. And then I just tell me to give me a butter list and how many feet from the property do I wanna go. It looks like it defaulted to 100, but if you go to 50, the average width of the street, okay? Be a little different out here. You're gonna get all the abutters.
yeah,
This thing puts it in a PDF file or an Excel spreadsheet. You can set this thing up so it'll print a list on whatever you got. So I'm sending this stuff off to the auctioneer, because they're gonna send out the notices to the abutters.
yeah,
As part of the sales thing. And, you know, in seconds, boom, boom.
pretty
Okay?
good.
This
Nice
is
to
the
hear
kind,
something working.
something works. And even if the property line's out in the road a little bit, it doesn't matter. The accuracy of this thing is just fine for what this is. And this is really gonna be good for planning board and ZBA, who are always looking for abutters. Okay?
Yeah,
So this thing's gonna be real great, and you can do it from home.
okay,
Not yet, but
yeah,
you will real quick. So I just wanted to mention that, you know, those two items, and I was kind of excited about it,
cool,
because
And it's user friendly.
yeah,
I watched him twice and know how to do it, yeah. It's amazing.
user friendly, working well. Sounds good, I
Such
like it.
positive verbiage.
We're in the wrong town.
So, that's it. We're 9 to 1 on Saturday.
Yep.
Yep.
We'll have the budget books out with all the, with the warrant as it is now. The warrant covers all the dollars and then some. And the budget covers everything that's in the books.
Yep.
And the only question I had is, we're gonna post this thing tomorrow, okay? And between 9 and 1, are there any particular parts or subject matters you're gonna look at different times? If somebody wants to come here and,
I would say we're gonna start at the front of the book and move right
No,
through.
no, I understand that, but I mean, would you allocate 9 to 10 for here to here,
I don't think we can effectively do that.
No, because I'm not sure where we're gonna
I
end up spending
know,
the
it's
bulk of
kinda hard,
time. or-
okay.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
somebody wants to come in
Mm.
and talk about their budget, you can skip and go over to that and come
Yeah.
back.
Sure, yeah, like if Meredith wants to come in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
And
Yeah.
also residents may be coming in
yeah,
as
I mean,
well.
we'll
Oh, I'm
move
sure
around
one
as
will
we
be
need to, but we need to finalize it.
A relative?
I think,
Anyway.
the sticking points are more likely to be the warrant articles than the budget itself.
mm.
Well, see how it goes.
I don't know,
I
the
think it
warrant
needs
art-
to
the
stay
warrant art-
pretty fluid, cause
The
you
warrant
never know.
articles are the same as they have been.
Mm.
They haven't really changed.
Well, there were supposed to be some ads
What's
this
that?
year. I think there were supposed to be some warrant article, like additions to the warrant. Right?
I haven't seen it.
Well, we've
I'll review our
discussed
notes.
some.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we'll write them on the
Last
fly if
week
we
we
have to.
discussed, Bert brought up.
You're not right. No warrant articles on the fly.
What's that?
No, of course, so we'll write them on the fly if we have to. We have time, what's the deadline for the warrant articles?
I'll tell you in a minute.
It's like early January, isn't
I
it?
have it right here.
Yeah, well, we have to have the public hearing for the warrant and for the budget come second week of January, I think.
Okay.
Okay, town meeting calendar. Friday, January 7th is the last day for voters to petition the select board to include an article in the proposed warrant proposing a bond, okay?
Yep.
January 11th is the last day to petition select board to include an article in the town meeting warrant, money or otherwise.
That's for a citizen petition.
And then Tuesday, January 18th
There it is.
is the last day to hold a public hearing on an annual budget, so we're gonna wanna do that before that, okay?
So would we want to do it on the 18th, or would we want to do it prior to that?
I'd like to do it on the 11th.
Public budget hearing?
Well, we can discuss that.
Well, that public
Saturday.
hearing can take place here.
Yes.
Yes, oh yeah, it takes place here. It's a public hearing. We notify the public that we're going to discuss the budget, make any final changes before we go to the deliberative session.
Right.
So,
The
yeah,
budget and the warrant.
it makes sense to have it the week before, just in case something happens.
Snowstorm?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you do it on the last day, you can extend it out, but now you start getting closer to the deliberative session, you gotta print ballots, you gotta do this and that, you wanna,
Yeah, so let's put that definitely on the agenda for the 11th,
Yeah.
okay.
The budget hearing?
the budget hearing, public budget hearing.
And I wonder if the
Wednesday.
public is aware that Saturday is not the budget hearing. I hope they are aware of that.
I thought we made it clear, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah.
Ron, did you have something?
You have one article for the impact fee for the video
Impact fee?
about the money.
Oh,
Well, that
Yeah,
was,
that's one of the warrant articles.
And that's
that-
one of them?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's gonna be added.
I don't have that written.
Alright, so we gotta start a spot to keep track of all this, I guess Saturday,
Mhm.
Yep.
after we review all of our notes and, you know, 'cause there's at least 6 or 7 warrant articles that need to be written.
Impact fee video.
Yeah, so the franchise fee.
one thing the moderator pointed out to me is, it's nice to keep it 2 pages. He didn't elaborate on that, but it sounded like it's a bit more work to go 4 or 5.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, but,
I don't think
We'll
we,
see.
yeah, there's some
We'll
things
see what
that
it ends up.
need to be addressed, and we need to hear from the townspeople.
it is what it is.
Yeah,
Okay,
Wednesday, January 19th, is the first day for candidates to file for public office with the town clerk.
The first day.
The first day. And that goes out, that filing period ends a week from the following Friday, so that's going to be Friday, January 28th. And the town clerk's office must be open on that Friday from 3 to 5 p.m.
okay. Sean did ask the question about the warrant articles. Are they under the same heading as the budget hearing?
What's the question?
The warrant articles, when's the last day to have a public hearing on the warrant articles? Is that part of the budget hearing?
That is the budget hearing.
Okay, well, we,
And you don't have to have a public hearing on a warrant article unless it's got money in it.
all right, well, most of them
You
do.
can have a warrant article to, to do some crazy thing or support some cause in Oregon or some other place and, you know, a ballot initiative that we get once in a while. We don't have to have a budget hearing on those. In fact, they don't belong in a budget hearing.
Okay.
Okay. Alright, yeah, so the 11th, we gotta have ours ready for.
Yep.
Okay, is there anything else, Jim?
I wanna send out to you guys the resumes I've got. I can do with a couple of file attachments, it won't show up your computer, but the idea that you get them and read them and maybe in a week or so, we can have a non-public session where we go through them and decide who we want to invite in for interviews.
Okay.
All right.
About how many have you got?
Oh,
You?
maybe 5.
Oh, good. It's good to hear. Okay. Nice.
It's not that good.
5's pretty good. It's better than 0.
What about if Jim just stays part-time and gets a clerk?
Executive assistant.
Yes.
Well, let's take a look at what we got
Yeah. Good.
before I get myself in trouble.
Just throwing it out.
Alright. Are you all set for this evening, Jim, with items?
Yeah.
Jason, do you have anything?
I did. Just an update on the Heritage Commission. We had our first meeting last night as a reformed Heritage Commission with a renewed focus. And so there's hope to get that old town hall restoration back in the works.
Beautiful.
So there's some investigating gonna be being done, pursuing different grants. I think it's the intention of the commission to try and do as much as possible without hitting up special warrant articles and try to get it done through grants and fundraisers and whatnot. So we'll see where it goes, but it was off to a good start.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, it was fun. And then I have a proposal that we adopt policy as the select board, which I wrote up. It says, "We, the select board of New Ipswich, do hereby affirm that no department, board, or committee that falls under the authority and oversight of the Board of Selectmen shall implement a COVID-19 related health mandate on any resident or participant that would require a person to surrender the personal liberty outlined in the New Hampshire State Constitution. This specifically includes the mandating of mask wearing and/or vaccination in order to participate in any meeting or event that is sponsored." I hate reading stuff here. "Sponsored or hosted by the town of New Ipswich. Neither shall any department, board, or committee forbid the wearing of masks." And this policy would be effective immediately and remain in place at the discretion of the select board.
Now, one immediate issue that I know that we're gonna face with this, because it's not the department that's mandating the masks,
Yeah.
but it's the school that's mandating the masks,
Yeah.
like for participation in basketball.
This would be the rec league,
Yeah,
which was really a prime motivator for me in writing that up.
But we have no authority over the SAU,
But we do have authority over the rec league.
not the building though, and we play
Right.
in the facility.
That's
So it's-
correct.
So it's not the rec that's mandating the use of masks, but it's the SAU in their facility.
But in order to participate in basketball, right now, at first they were going to require the kids to wear them while they're playing, which to me is outrageous.
Well,
They
I'm
backed
telling you- I'm
off
telling
of
you where
that.
it's coming, so
I
it
understand
doesn't-
this, but the whole thing is, and the point of that is really to try and bring some sanity back to our society, because I know Bert says that the last few years were nothing, but the general population has really felt the impact. And much of these mandates serve a purpose to divide the people and turn them against each other. And I don't think we should participate in that.
Which I agree with you, but in this instance, I feel like this is almost a reverse mandate of sorts. And
How do you-
will directly create a division and cut and potentially shut down rec basketball the second that this goes into effect for us. Because they will not be able to operate in the gym facilities without following what the SAU has outlined.
My understanding of that was, and again, I didn't read the, in fact, the rec league hasn't fully communicated it, but they said it was through the Sauhegan, whatever league that they joined.
So there may
Is
be,
what it
there may be
was.
multiple levels to that.
And so, the thing is you look around, this is a serious issue. I believe it is, and I believe time will tell. But doing this to the kids, I don't think it's healthy for them. And I don't think it's healthy to give this kind of leverage for ostracizing other people as well. And I think we can look at other countries, and yeah, I know we're not other countries, but we can see the government overreach, and we felt it here in New Hampshire last year. We felt it hard. Did we not?
No, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with where you wanna go with this. But I can't sign on to this without hearing from the rec department directly. Cause I'm not gonna put them in the middle, cause
But
they're, right now, they're just trying to put on programs for our kids.
But the
And they're
flip,
in
at
other
what
people's
cost?
facilities, and they're, you know, in a part of a league, so there's
Yeah.
concessions that need to be made for both.
And this would not just apply to the rec league.
No, I understand
It would
that,
apply
but
to this
tomorrow,
building,
this
it
is
would
gonna create an
apply.
uproar, like with the rec league and our kids playing basketball. Right now, our kids are able to play basketball, and it's relatively quiet, cause they found a middle ground with some things. So, if this is something, that's why I'm just not gonna sign on to it tonight without speaking with them first and having them come and speak. Cause it's gonna be the biggest group that's impacted, and it's not gonna unite people,
Just
it's actually,
current.
it's actually gonna create division.
But it has already,
Fighting.
Sean.
No, I know.
It has already created division. People have pulled their kids out of the league. So, which way do you go? And what I'm proposing is what I view as the side of freedom. And I don't need to be told that the risk of COVID is real, because I've had it. But we do have an obligation to uphold those freedoms that are outlined in the Constitution, and when they're being violated, and it's not just the kids. If anybody wants to attend a game, they have to do these things. You watch them when they leave the game, that mask comes off, for the most part.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? They're being forced.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And,
I absolutely agree.
and the policies in place are crazy,
Mhm.
because the kids don't need to wear it when they're running up and down the court. They sit down on the bleachers, they need to put it on. We're talking about something floating in the air,
Yeah.
so it doesn't even make sense.
What does make sense is the mandatory vaccine. Now, both of you suffered COVID. I don't believe either one of you were vaccinated.
Correct.
Okay. I was vaccinated. I haven't had COVID. The odds of me getting it are slim, and the odds of me, and if I do get it, it's going to be a mild case.
I don't wanna turn this into.
No,
a huge
listen,
league, 'cause there's
I have the
problems
floor,
with
if you
this.
don't mind.
Yeah.
One, I would support mandatory vaccination. Masks, putting them on and off in a crowded room doesn't do much for you. I agree with you there. But as far as individual freedoms, if you care to read Article 3 of the New Hampshire Constitution, you have to give up some personal rights to safeguard others. You're not giving up, by getting vaccinated for the flu, for pneumonia, for shingles, for whatever, for COVID, you are not giving up any personal rights. You're making other people safe. I do not support
Bert?
that in the least. I think that's nonsense.
That is
a
what you're-
dithering piece of stupid nonsense.
All right.
Bert, what you're saying there has not been proven, and there hasn't been enough time to prove it.
It has been proven. It has been proven many
No,
times,
wait.
scientifically.
None of us are scientists, it's like, to me,
And
it's
that's not on the agenda.
no, well,
Well, this is the selectmen's reports, and it is.
But I'm against it,
something-
period.
okay, alright. So I'm not in favor of mandating vaccines, nor mandating mask wearing. I believe in people's personal freedoms, and I understand the perspective of, the greater public health, but we'll see where things lie. For right now, I'd just like to get input from the rec and hear what their position's gonna be, and let them know that this is coming down, potentially, like the pipe for them to deal with, before just putting it into effect. There's a little bit of knowledge gained from earlier in the meeting,
So
like not to just hit somebody blindly.
So you, yeah, okay.
Yep.
But even beyond the rec league,
Yep.
I think that we should have some sort of policy.
We
because
have
the
no
trend-
policy now, we don't need one.
And
Because the trend is,
Because we're letting people make their own choices as they so choose. Let's leave it alone.
that's what this is doing.
No, I don't wanna mandate it. Let them do what they're doing now.
And I am kind of like surprised at the want to make a policy, because our policy to this point has been
To
less
let-
policy and let people,
That's true, but
Yeah.
what this policy is saying, it's affirming that we want people to be free to make their own choices regarding their health. The way we have left it, some boards and committees have mandated, if their members want to attend, they have to do this.
because they come to a group consensus.
But it was a majority vote, it wasn't a
The democratic
unanimous
pro-
vote.
I know it was a democratic process, and there's gives and takes with that.
But as a institution,
No.
I don't feel like,
You can make a motion if you want.
I'm willing to wait if you wanna bring it before the rec league.
Okay.
I am.
Alright,
Yeah, and I'd like to be apprised
absolutely.
of any, developments.
Will do.
Alright.
You all set? Is there any other items?
No.
Bert?
I had hoped, you know, that you'd be a little more spry, sprightly, perhaps, and we can talk about ZBA and Concom appointments, but we can put that off another week.
Okay.
We do need to go into non-public to discuss some stuff with Mr. Golian. That's the only other thing I have on the list.
Okay. Alright, so with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to go into non-public.
So moved. Under.
And just for the record, when we come out,